I'm buying them.
All right. 1841 is the time. You listen to Radio After 6 right here on Hot FM Full Force One Network. That was called Spirit. And of course, as usual, every time you hear that song on a Thursday, just know that the good Rev is back.
He certainly is, and I'm glad to be here. Big fat shout out to all of you out there. Hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. The weather doesn't know what it is. Whether it's going to be hot or cold or rainy or not rainy, I may have no idea.
Climate change. Climate change.
I won't comment on climate change.
Don't say anything.
I won't say anything on climate change. But you know what? It is a really tough time, and so you can imagine there's all the comments back and forth and the maize issues. And I think load shedding is low.
Slightly, but yeah. I heard, what's the word I caught it? Russian.
Right.
The term Russian. So,
Whichever, but definitely it's loading. It's doing like a reload.
but what can we do, man?
Nah,
There's no water.
So you know what I've done this time around. Me, I invested in those my investors. I got tired.
Oh, you did?
No, I did like a proper investment. And then now what was just left was the light. So I sorted the light out.
There you go.
Yes. So even when power goes, you just say, I'm good. Because Kudara, it used to get so annoying. And us, we always seem to be the last ones to be switched back on for whatever reason. I don't know if that's a phenomenon with everyone else, but for me, it always looked like us were the last ones to be switched back on. Then so you're like, you see the malaita at least joining among malaita. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, we're green here. 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour past from what let's go. Guys, we still have no power. And then they never answer you. They just say you have a faulty number, shine over Wasilia.
Yeah, the whole process of the faulty number before someone actually comes and attends the problem.
Yeah. So a big fat shout out to you guys joining us by way of live stream here on my platforms. You're both live on Facebook as well as on YouTube and on LinkedIn. This is Prosperity Insights, the radio show. We will now be coming this way as well. And today I'm very, very proud to say we have a very interesting topic. I personally decided to call it Zambia Revenue Authorities. All the questions you wanted to ask, but we're afraid. So today you have the anonymity of the phone, so you don't have, nobody sees you. You can even say, I'm just calling anonymous, different Fusek. But we're so proud and glad that today we are honored to have in our midst the director who's going to be giving us information on exactly what's going on. But just before I introduce the person that's from the ZRA who is actually taking us through all this, any interesting events this week in terms of social media? It's been quiet, right?
But
Apart from the fuel.
Apart from the fuel and the usual politician.
Oh, I forgot the whole Uka arrangement.
The whole whatever.
So somebody sent me a message direct inbox.
We used to get messages, man.
So I got a message that Rev, I think you're very unfair. I said, how? What I noticed is, I mean, when it comes to your other stuff, you're brilliant, but on the political side,
they don't say much.
No. He said that you have this habit of always speaking ill of the other side, but when the main guys are doing anything, they're always good. That's why I haven't said anything in line with me. You're critiquing
You always say what you need to say at any given time. Doesn't matter.
But you know how it is. You always only see what hurts you. You know, it's like recently I did a show on the papas. It's a very damning problem. If you know the meaning of fire, I'll do a rant on it. But let's just say, I have the entire papa movement and its followers on my case. They've told me at Muzao and among them deputy Jesus, who made you judge of men? Instead of preaching the gospel, you're busy criticizing your fellow men. I sit down. I even saved you. So I say, especially the Christians, because these religious guys are just as bad as the Catholics. In fact, I think they're on the same level. Yeah. Absolutely. So anyway, glad you guys could join us. As you know already, we are so honored today to have someone from Zambia Revenue Authority, one of the directors of the Taxpayer Services and Education. She's going to be walking us through quite a bit because, you know, one of the things, as you all know, that I'm big on entrepreneurship and enterprise. And I believe with all my heart that the key to Zambia's prosperity lies in entrepreneurship. Because you see, every time enterprise prospers, there's a lot of what I call knock-on or trickle-down effect. Because then people get employment, suppliers get opportunities to supply and do business with the entity. There's a lot. The ecosystem is very powerful. Banks, everybody benefits. And one of the challenges I know that's been a big deal for a long time is understanding the dynamics of tax. And so taxation, there's a saying in English. There are two things you can be certain of: debt and tax, of course. So, give to render, actually, that's the word, render to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. So, Caesar comes knocking and says, excuse me, yeah. And the funny thing about tax, I mean, for example, I don't know about Zambia, but in the US, in that tax, those people don't pay on tax. You've heard big stars like Wesley Snipes has gone in jail for tax, of course, because he didn't pay his taxes. And then there were famous televangelists from the 80s, a man called Jim Baker and his wife. They went to jail for tax issues. So this is a big pastor who was a televangelist, big name like Jimmy Swaggart. Mulando is a tax. Tax. So in Zambia, I don't know how rough they are, but they're getting there. So, but the thing about the tax people is they have to do the right strategy. You bite and then you push it in. So today we have somebody to push it in nicely for us in the studio. Okay, sorry, Mama. But we have somebody to help us understand the dynamics of a very complicated space. But I can tell you this: you are better off compliant as an entrepreneur any day than not compliant. Because if you grow big and then it is discovered that that's one day. I'm sure you all remember, no names mentioned, one very famous newspaper, which the only way they knocked it out was tax. Remember? Yes. They didn't lock the guy in jail or anything. They said, that's how they closed. So many times, if you can find a way to make sure from day one you're compliant, that just learn everything there is to learn, make sure you're doing things right, so that when time comes and the query comes, they're not going to say you're owing 2 million in taxes from 10 years of not paying. So you don't want that. So today we are very honored to have in the studio Madam Miriam Savi. How are you, ma'am?
I'm fine, thank you.
Nice. We're very glad to have you. My papers tell me you're Director, Taxpayer Services and Education. So there's a section on education as well, right?
A director.
Oh, a director. Now, is that education within or outside? Like in terms of the education component, is it for teaching us? This is like civic education, teaching end users, or within the tax system as well, you're teaching the workers there?
The main part of it is to teach the taxpayers out there. But of course, we do have a role to share information. Yes, it's out there.
Nice. So listen, we need to first. So let's just run through all the questions, and then you guys feel free to also ask questions. We'll be opening the lines later. Right now, we just want to get through all the questions. So let's get this baby off the ground. Why and who needs to register their businesses?
Thank you so much, and good evening to all the listeners out there.
And viewers.
Of course. Yeah. Certainly. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here, and you've said it all in summary. Somebody just needs to be compliant. So compliance itself would start with registration.
Yeah.
And why? This is the legislation that we have. It's not.
It's a law, right?
It's a law. Yeah.
No, we just have to accept la musique.
Yes. Yeah. So the law itself requires that anybody who's in business
of any type, even if it's nails and makeup, secretly,
everything, as long as you're earning income, you need to register.
So technically, even the student,
as long as they're earning income, the key word is earning income.
They should register.
They should register.
So what's the process? How does that go?
Well, to register is quite simple, because remember, we want as many people, everyone that is earning income,
yes,
to come on board. So the registration itself has been simplified to the
I think
extent
so.
that you can actually just use the phone and
Yeah.
just do *858# and start the process of
Wow.
registration for your
So
tax
that's the
number.
USSD one, eh?
Yes.
And then what about the app tax on app? Can that also
Yes,
work?
you can go to the portal and just
Mhm.
access it there, and you can register online as well. So you have the phone that doesn't need the internet on it.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay,
You use the
USSD, whatever use that, yeah,
USSD. Yeah.
USSD,
Yeah.
and go on that. The steps are simplified. You just follow the
Mm.
steps, and you'll be able to get that.
So meaning when you do it that way, as long as you have your NRC number, everything just connects.
Yeah, of course, the NRC number doesn't have to be a duplicated one. So if
Yeah,
somebody,
yeah. So if it's from Matero, guy has the ghetto in Zambia for everything.
yeah,
Yes.
but more so if it's been used, because sometimes we have NRCs that are
the
duplicated.
duplicated,
So you could have your
yeah.
NRC being owned by another person.
Exactly.
So if you have a tipping and another person comes on board, the system may not allow you to go ahead until verification is better made to really establish who's
Who's the
the
real
owner.
owner.
Yes.
Because I think there's been a lot of the hanky panky, especially in relation to what happened in the past. So you tend to have all those fake NRCs and double numbers. Okay, so who should so what? First of all, in terms of business, how does it work? Like in terms of the types of taxes that one can be directed. Oh, sorry, registered.
Okay. Then we said somebody earning income. The next
Mhm.
step is how much income are they
Yeah,
making
yes,
in a year. So we're
Correct.
talking from month 1, which is January, to month 12,
Mhm.
which is December. So if you are able to make, and I'll start from 0, as long
Mhm.
as they're in business,
Mhm.
from 0 to 800,000, it means you can register for a very simplified tax, which is called turnover tax.
Yes. That's the
Very-
4% one.
That's the 4%
Agree.
one. And if you are above that amount, which is
Mhm.
above 800,000 per annum, remember,
Mhm.
then you register for what is called income tax.
That's right. And so, which means if somebody's on turnover, they can upgrade to income tax. It's
Yes.
just a simple declaration, I see.
Yes, because you remember in Zambia we are administering tax, which is a self-assessment.
That's
So
right.
the first
So that's what the
person-
Americans have as well.
Yes, the first person that knows how much they are making is
It's
not
yourself.
Zambia Revenue Authority.
Mhm.
It's yourself. So
That's
you
right.
need to just determine how much. You can even project how
Mhm.
much have I made in a month. How much will I make by end of month? If you're able to do a forecast, then you can be able to know that you're either below 800 or above 800. So
Okay.
above 800 for direct taxes purposes, we're saying you register for income tax,
Mhm.
and you go further on depending on the goods that you're also selling.
That's
Yeah,
right.
you can register for VAT as well, which deals with taxable goods. So any goods that have VAT on them and your income is above 800,000,
It's
then it's a
compliant,
mandate.
huh?
Yes, it's a mandate that you come to ZRA and also register or register. online.
Apparently, the little I know about VAT is that one, when you register for VAT, a business is collecting money on behalf of the Zambia Revenue Authority. So, what are the implications? And should one make sure they've done their homework before getting into VAT, or it's mandatory? You have to register for VAT and then make sure all these procedures are in place. How does it work?
Okay. The VAT has got 2 streams.
Mhm.
Remember, sometimes they're doing business and somebody will ask for a VAT registration because
That's
they
right.
want to deal with people that are registered for VAT.
That's
And then your income is below 800. So there's
Mm-hmm.
a voluntary part of it. You can still register for VAT under the voluntary or under what we call the statutory, which is the mandatory one. Okay?
So explain a bit about the voluntary, because I'm wondering, can you register for VAT voluntary even if you're under 800,000? It has to be 800,000.
One is voluntary, you volunteer to come on board. The other one is by law.
So meaning if you're under 800,000 but you
opt.
want to, yeah, you opt, so you can do it. Huh?
You can do it.
What happens then in the case of in income tax you got that advantage where you can claim back a number of costs and all the books and stuff. Can that work under the 800,000 option if you're volunteer for VAT?
Yeah, of course, because that's a mechanism of VAT itself. It's allowing you to get your costs
back, yes.
Back.
Correct.
For the 16% that you paid on the various purchases that you had.
You just
which
differentiate.
are in for the business, of course.
Mhm,
Anything
mhm.
that is for the business, then you
Mhm.
get that credit
Yeah,
in the return.
correct.
Yeah, and you only pay the difference if you made
Yes,
more.
yes.
That's how VAT
Right.
is.
So it's
And
usually passed on until the last person's on the place.
yes,
The full
the
person in the
final
chain.
consumer is you and I.
Yes, correct.
We are the ones that won't have that claiming and
Yeah, so
that's the
we're
one
ones
that consumes the 16%.
That's right.
Yes.
Oh, see.
Yes.
So you can do that even if you are not on the 800,000
Yes.
or above.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So
Except it has conditions.
Yes,
Some tougher conditions.
which is the
Because-
voluntary one?
Yes, the voluntary one, because
Okay.
it has a sunset or an expiry date. So 31st December, you still have to show that interest to say
Wow.
I'll continue to be on the
Oh,
register.
I get it. Because for starters, you're not earning above 800. So really, so to help for the person out there, what's the difference now? Once you go on the income tax, what's the difference? I know we'll look at the other taxes as well. How does that work for the voluntary? I'm sorry, for the mandatory.
Okay, for the mandatory one. We're talking about the
Yes.
mandatory VAT.
Yes. Now the ones who've gone above 800,000 and gone on the income tax.
Oh, okay, the principles are the same. The key word is that, and this is a perception that people have,
Yeah.
that VAT is not being paid by the business. If
Mm.
I am charging you VAT, it's over and above the
I
price
agree.
that I have put. So
So
if my rim of
tax,
paper is 20 kwacha, I'm going to add 16% on
That's
that
right.
20 kwacha and give you a price which is 20 kwacha plus 16%. That's what I'm going to pass on to you.
Mhm.
Okay? And if you are registered for VAT, that 16% we have charged you, are going to claim it back.
Yeah.
Remember,
That's the
we
total.
buy it, then
Mm.
as the final consumers, we have no way of claiming it.
That's right. Okay, so we'll need to take a short. Oh, we're really getting into that. So you got those of you listening in. Don't go away. We have Madam Miriam Savi, who is the Director of Taxpayer Services and Education at Zambia Revenue Authority. The taxes and you. I don't know what their new phrase is. Together, you, me, something forever, our destiny, something. I've forgotten the phrase. She'll tell us. But you're gonna take a break, and then when we're done with the break, you need to make sure you don't touch the dial so we can come back and continue. So let's take a break, and no, back to you, and then we'll come back.
On Prosperity Insights, now on Hot FM.
People are saying they're learning. I'm saying that my comments that we're learning. And I can't end it. So guys, I can't end it. We're now on the break. We'll be back just after the ads and what have you. So just chill, go grab a cup of coffee and move around with the phone. We'll just keep watching. Like, in case I know how it is when we
Our Eagle first took flight in 1964 with one mission: to take Zambia to the world and bring the world to Zambia. Our Eagle flew students abroad and brought them back as skilled scholars to contribute to the development of our then young nation. Our Eagle couriered gifts and postcards across the globe to let our loved ones know that no matter how far apart we were still thinking about them. Our Eagle was adored across the continent and was the pride of the nation. Our Eagle has once again spread her wings and is back in full flight, soaring in the skies. Zambia is the wings of Africa.
The news headlines every second hour are sponsored by Swan Insurance Zambia. For you, for them, for life. Swan, for life.
called Mechanized 360 Ulimi Opana to increase mechanized farming in the country. In Southern Council is the new reported two incidents in which one of these descended across four children and an elderly woman in Meanwood and Chester police compound. President Hakainde Hichilema has declared the drought which has affected 84 districts out of 116 in the country and national disaster. In international news, Russian President Vladimir Putin has warned Western countries against sending troops to Ukraine. And in sports news, Al-Nassr forward Cristiano Ronaldo has been banned for one match for provoking fans following the Saudi Premier win over Al-Shabaab and Hamas.
I don't watch football. What did you do? You gave him the
No
finger.
idea what he did. But,
It's Tuesday.
but you know, in the kingdom, there's certain things,
Yeah.
maybe gestures or something you may have, yeah.
But it's one match. Huh?
Yeah, being offensive.
One match is not so bad. There's a guy who's been banned for 4 years.
Of what?
Oh, it's football.
Yeah.
Ah.
That's was doping drugs. He felt yes.
Why did he do? Why do these people get that temptation considering the seriousness?
I think it's performance enhancing drugs.
Yeah, usually
Yes,
true.
because you want to be.
But you know, I mean, but the implications are so serious.
Yeah.
You know, 4 years is a long time for an athlete. Yeah? Usually it's hard. Me, I follow these cases these international, when they do the test and then they find you're doped. Ben, I still remember in 1984, the Olympics. There was Carl Lewis and Ben somebody. The name is gone. He won. He beat Carl Lewis in the 100-meter dash. He beat and should have gotten the gold medal for that year, but they found he had been doped. They stripped the gold. Because remember, they also do the relay. They also do. He was part of the American team. Because the 84 Olympics were in Los Angeles. If you remember this. So they were in LA. So America was really, America, So just for that to happen, Ben somebody, the name is gone. So he lost that, then he got a 4-year ban, and in Olympics, 4-year ban means forget to not to competing again. That was the end of his career, basically. I don't remember hearing that he ever came back. He didn't do a comeback. And he's not the only one. There's been, so you wonder why they would be taking these things, knowing very well that if they find.
Sometimes, because of their trainers, the trainers won't really tell them the drugs they're taking. It's only when.
Because normally they give them like supplements and stuff like that. Right?
Yes. Only when after you take those drugs that you can't find the strength. Remember the cyclist?
Yeah, I can't remember which one. Yes. Very
The guy who
famous.
used to win those Tour de France. It stripped him off
Just imagine.
a lot of his titles. All of them.
The same.
Yeah, they found that. And he came into really serious.
No, it's very interesting because remember there's endorsements from. Yeah. Oh, no. Yes. Oh no, we're coming soon. We're just waiting for ads. We're waiting for ads. The ads playing. I should swing this thing around. Okay, well, in the last one. So we're picking it up with what needs to be tax number. You know, 1 hour is so short. You can't believe it. Oh, nice. You should have put the headphones on to see how it sounds, just to hear how it sounds.
Music and talk radio on another level. Radio after 6. Rev Walter on Prosperity Insights. Now on.
Alrighty, so as you know, we are having ZRA, and our topic is all the questions you ever wanted to ask but we're too afraid. And we're looking at all aspects of tasks. We have in the studio Madam Miriam Savi, Director, Taxpayer Services and Education. And for you guys, it's the first time you're joining me live, and we will be running these for quite a while. As in, I'll be going live every Thursday. Now, we looked at a number of taxes, and there was also the indirect taxes which I'm told are VAT, IPL, TL, and excise. I don't want to go into it. Let's just go straight to number 3. What does it mean to be tax compliant, and what is tax compliance exactly?
All right. Remember we talked about the law requirement that is in business to register for taxes. Now, when you register for taxes, the registration itself is part of the compliance that we need. So you cannot be having that business on Cairo Road, you're busy selling whatever you're selling, and you have not gotten registered. So that compliance number 1.
It's a big mud, right?
Big, big curse. Yeah. So within 30 days of starting your business, you have to register. Now, once you register, that's not the end of the story. In fact, it's the beginning of the story.
And we'll be together till
Yeah.
somebody dies.
Uh-huh.
And if the business is running proper, it will continue
Yes.
even after you die.
Of course, yeah. So yeah, after you register, then we are expecting you to ensure that the tax that you register for, it's got a requirement of filing tax returns
That's
with a specified date. We gave an example of turnover tax, for example,
yes.
whose filing date is the 14th.
Yes.
So you file your tax return
before the 14th, or by the 14th.
So you have from the 1st to the 14th,
To
which
do
is 2
whatever you
weeks.
need to do,
Yes.
yeah.
So you have that grace period of 2 weeks. Come and file your return, or file your return from the comfort of your
home.
Yeah.
Or
Wherever you are.
Wherever you are.
In the bus or in the car, you can file your
So
return.
has it decongested your drop-in center?
Quite a lot.
Yes.
Who wants to spend money moving to ZRA?
That can
with
queue
the
that
traffic?
will be going around you, just winding around that kind of place.
Yes. So once you file your tax return, you must also ensure that you properly report in that return. It's not just a matter of bringing a zero return, you've already sold quite a lot. So you bring a return that has got proper declaration, you have reported what you sold, and the tax payable on that return, you must make sure that you pay it together with the return. So we are on number 3. You register, you file the return, you make the payment. We've also talked about reporting properly. Do not underreport. Yeah. Do not underreport. So don't bring fake returns. Ensure the return that comes to Zambia Revenue Authority is correct.
That's right.
And you must observe the deadlines. The deadlines are known. If they're not known, please go to our website, ask us in whatever way. It's all there. So you need to ensure that you keep those deadlines. You also must make sure that you keep the records that are required for you to maintain. There's no business where you just do business without maintaining the records.
That's
all
right.
those records that have to do with your business, please keep them because they're the source of the information. So if you're buying, make sure that those receipts, you keep them. If you're selling, make sure that they sell them, so you keep them, the bank statements, everything.
And usually those are the most important. This is the bank statements, because they really do show properly what income has come. Your income's coming through your mobile money.
Yes, and people now are using the phone. So even information on the phone, if you sold through the phone, you get all that information.
That's right.
And of course, this is quite important. But we also want you to cooperate with Zambia Revenue Authority. Let's support it, because remember, we are servants of the government. So we're doing this for everyone. So you need to cooperate with the Revenue Authority when we call upon you. For example, if we are asking you to update your details with the Revenue Authority, if they're updated, or we want to inspect you, you have to provide the information that we have requested for. So all that cooperation makes it possible for you to be deemed as a compliant taxpayer.
That's right.
Yes.
So in other words, osa kuisa boma iwe. Boma ikaboela ikakamba tifuna stand prepared once so that it's well. And just for the sake of those who may not know, what's the importance of filing accurate returns on time and being compliant in terms of return?
Yes, if you don't observe what we just said and you call them post-registration requirements, when you file the return late or you don't file it correctly, remember then you're calling for penalties or interest. Those are costs to the business. But also you're denying yourself from very good benefits such as the tax clearance and other incentives.
Which these days have become a very, very big, like a lot of places want.
Right?
Yes, they want that.
Yes, you also have, you deny yourself other incentives such as if you're making an importation, the tax code, advance income tax that you get lived on when we are compliant. Then for those that are registered for VAT, there's what is called deferment on eligible goods. You're importing something, the VAT component of it may be removed when you are compliant. Cash accounting, where you just account for VAT based on the monies that are exchanging hands in the business other than invoice based. You get all forms of incentives and you have a free mind and a good status with Zambia Revenue Authority when we call taxpayers compliant. I think it should be good to be called that way. So that is what it means. So you secure yourself a good status.
So you need to make sure that you always clear anything that's due, isn't it? Because then it can affect you when it comes to obviously getting business.
Yes, and it's very important to frequently check the status of your accounts with Zambia. Don't get shocked. Oh, this return, I filed it. Give us proof. It's not there. Oh, this payment, I paid it. Where's the receipt? There's nothing. So it's always good for businesses to ensure that medical checkups.
Yeah, you know, one of the things I love about the current website, I love the fact that you've got every time you make a payment, there is that thing that's produced like the PDF thing. So we get an email of that, and it's got all the details in it. So I have a folder on my email called it means the
information that we have within our database is correct. Imagine if we had a wrong email address and a wrong number, so that information would not be getting to you, or they would be getting to a person that is not the owner of the business. For those people that like using the street agents.
That's so. In other words, that's actually great. Now, those street agents, you do obviously have registered proper people. Ozodari does not have official agents doing that on behalf who are like accountants and things like that.
We know the accountants really regulate how you can do this agency thing, but businesses out there just pick anybody who assumes they know what business that is. There's nothing wrong with picking someone that you trust, but don't give them details to come and put on your business. Because the business is yours, so let them put the details that belong to you. Because this person may no longer be your agent, may become another person, may employ somebody else. So if you have wrong details, then that's quite unfortunate. Then the communication is broken down.
Absolutely. Yes. So for starters, you don't get any of the alerts, you don't get any of the updates. No. So for the sake of those who are following, what is really the need for the tax clearance? What would one need it for?
Wow. The tax clearance, as the name says it, tax clearance.
So it proves you've paid. That's
yes, and that's the position that we're talking about. Clean, credible, observing all the obligations that are posed. When do you need that tax clearance? Remember, we talked about it being demanded for by the person that is going to do business with you. So if you really want to do is you want to enter into those contracts, one of the conditions that show us that you are.
No, in fact, a lot of places where one does applying, including written on ZPPA, you need to upload that. And of course, I'm aware that on your portal you've got tax clearance check. So you've got taxpayer check, search, as well as taxpayer search and company number search, and all sorts of things are going on there. So you can't do a fake one.
No. And taxpayers out there have an obligation to make sure that the tax plan that has been issued is valid. Because we have scammers. We do have scammers that we use.
So meaning when you are procuring and the supplier provides that information, you must check by going on the
ZRA website. Check the validity of it. Yeah, and before we forget, you asked what it is for. So when, for example, when you're, it's a requirement for you when you're changing ownership of the property, such as land and building, you need that tax clearance. The motor vehicle, when you have sold it, for it to go into another person's hand, you need that clearance. Just for the connections, they need to demand for that tax clearance. The biggest one, which is trade licenses at the councils. You have a trade license before it's renewed
You check.
You need the tax clearance.
So you know in my books what you guys are doing?
Mhm.
Sealing all the loopholes. Sealing all the loopholes.
Sealing all the revenue leakages.
Yes, too much revenue flights. So you
Yeah.
guys are really sealing it. I tell you, it's rough. So now even the council. I remember there was a time we just used to pay him to join there.
No,
So it is the council.
the councils are supposed to demand for a tax clearance.
Yeah. No, in
Yes.
fact, I don't think they'll even give it to you. So if you don't have the
Yeah,
tax clearance,
it's a must
Yeah.
that you have that. So
Mm.
yeah, so even for the shares,
Mhm.
changing from shares, you need that. So before PACRA can deal with you, when you're changing who the share holders
Yes,
are,
they need to check and see.
they need the tax clearance.
And right now you have a portal that kind of is interconnected, isn't it? So Packer can see these things, and everybody can kind of see everything, you know?
The interperson part of it, yes. Yeah, even the issues of it, and that's the direction of Zambia already.
Yeah.
So we
So
only
smart
have
Zambia
a
has really done their
smart
job.
ZRA, yeah. It's
Mm.
doing its job, and we have a very short period of time for us to have people that want to dribble the government.
Yeah, it's getting harder. You need hackers, actual hackers. So now this issue of rental income, I think that's another very interesting space, you know, because one of the things that has been a challenge, if you ask me, has been the whole idea of rental tax. So maybe for the sake of those listening, because you know, for a long time there's been that pay tax. Tax, can you pay anywhere? It's been a very common thing. And if you want to pay tax, go and pay the tax yourself. So I don't know if this is even working, especially in the companies here. You know, because in the companies it's also catching. Hey, there's a lot of rent going in there. So it will be very interesting to hear. So maybe for the sake of those listening, what is rental income and the scope of rental tax?
Yeah, it's rental. They're renting property.
That's
Okay, so that is the tax that you pay on the letting of property. And like you said previously, prior to 2022, the tenant had that obligation of getting the tax and paying on behalf of
Yes,
the
in fact,
landlord.
that was the
But
law.
that had to
Since
change.
prior to when?
2022.
Okay.
But that had to change so that it's simplified and the landlord becomes the
One
owner.
of lives.
Yes, the one who has the obligation.
Mhm.
So now all the landlords have that obligation to ensure that they pay tax on letting of property. Now, this property that you're letting, what does it constitute of? So if you have a boarding house somewhere, residential property meaning unfurnished apartments, commercial
And
buildings,
boarding houses, they are
boarding
raking, they are
houses.
raking.
Yes.
Oi, palinchito. In
Yeah.
fact, never many when I'm on my hand. Anyway, go.
Bare land such as camp facilities, water bodies or parts or there of boat houses. As long as they're letting this property, of course, it excludes a lodge which has a license because they will appear on the other taxes that we talked about earlier.
So you can't do double tax.
No, we won't. The other exclusion is on intangible assets or rental of other tangible assets other than the real property. So, our listeners and viewers out there, please take note. When you have property that has been mentioned here and you're letting it out, you need to register for this rental tax. Remember, we said that within 30 days, when you have this property that you're letting out, you need to come and register with Zambia. Just be one of those good citizens that is contributing to government coffers.
So, how is it taxed tonight? So, when you explain, because the little we understood, we were very confused. Because there's the whole issue of rental, there's the issue of the boarding tax, so which is which? Just help us, guide us here, because number one is end. Make let's start with the rental.
Okay, yeah, so we've said where this rental is applied. So taxation of rent is now similar to how pay-as-you-earn is calculated, where it has bands. So we have a band from 0% to 4% and 12.5%. So for income not exceeding 12,000 per annum, it's taxed at 0%. So if you are in the compound and your total income in the year is just 4,000, it means there's not going to be any tax on it. once it exceeds that amount, then it is taxed at 4%. So the amount above 12,000 kwacha, which goes to 800,000, is taxed at 4%. And if it's above 800,000 kwacha, we're talking about the 12.5% as the rate. So remember, there's relief of 12,000 kwacha there, which is given like for free. It's tax free. It's only the amount above that will be taxed at 4%.
Okay, that's very interesting. Okay, so I think what we'd like to do, let's also open up the lines. We'll continue, but just want to open up the lines so that people can call in. I mean, we have Zedar in the studio, and you know how it goes. So those of you watching, if you hear the number from I just say Topsy, from Nono here, then Nono can do the thing. You know Nono, so just in case you don't know, Nono is in the studio. Wave Nono. Ah, there you go. So yeah, so he's in the studio and he's gonna run the numbers. So run the numbers so people can be able to call, and we can take your questions because we have Zambia Revenue Authority in English.
All right, so to give us a call, the number is 0974-870-877. Call again.
Hello.
Hello.
Evening. How are you doing? Who are we speaking to? Sorry, I didn't hear the name. Oh, Kennedy, please go ahead and ask your question or give your comment. Yes, indeed. We have Zambia Revenue Authority. I'm just amused. ZRA. Yeah, no, we have a lot of questions. So I think we'll call them. Yes, because they come for you. If you don't say you're not taxed, it's a very serious offense. So
It's very important.
Yeah, you know, I didn't know it, but for sure, man, they couldn't drown. I couldn't visaka. Couldn't visaka. So I think I was thinking they couldn't drown.
I think it's really important for some exercise because actually have people who smuggle in tax refunds
Yeah.
because they don't know anything about tax. After I think taking this route that we went to self it's really very important and really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. That's really good, Kennedy. Thank you. Thanks for coming through. All right, so we're still taking calls. Come through, and if in case you have any questions, also feel free to bring them on, and we can certainly take the call. No, we have a call. Okay, hello.
Hello.
Good evening. Who are we speaking to? Yambo. Please go ahead with your question or your comment.
Yes.
Oh, Ziambo. My bad.
Following you, lady, I don't have concerns on your garnishing. I'm sure I understand what I'm saying.
They don't.
Garnishing has too much. It's too much. Have a heart. I get paid 30,000, for example, and almost 20 gone.
20. Anyway,
That's not bad.
no, she will explain so that we hear this 20 you're talking about.
Yeah, and secondly, I feel it's like we're being too harsh on our people, on our locals. Well, it's just recently, I can't remember exactly who, but one of the authorities has explained to say the mines are a bit, or the headlines said the mines are a bit sneaky when it comes to their audit, and so they get away with these taxes and all.
Murder, if you ask
You
me.
see the foreigners getting tax holidays, and yes, on your own people, you are garnishing us too much. Have a heart on that one.
No, she's here to explain. Thanks for the question. Very good question, Zambo. Okay, so Madame, he is saying at Muafianta. Please explain.
Yes, we just talked about the post-registration obligations and the need to file for the returns and the need to pay on time. Yes. Now, when you're owing, you file a tax return and you're supposed to pay and you don't pay. There are procedures. It's not like you just go bang, bring the money in the bank account. No. What actually happens is that when you're owing, after 30 days, we will write to you. We write through an email. If there's a correct email address, we'll remind you that the payment is due.
Outstanding.
Yeah. Normally you would ignore. The next time we'll write a letter, it's called a demand letter. Okay, we write to you, you receive it, we give you time because it's got time. Now, beyond a certain time, we would have reminded you through, for example, an email or a text or a phone call. Then we remind you through a letter, you have this period of time to make a payment, and then you don't pay. So we have other tools that we would use now to ensure that we enforce. Remember, any delayed revenue is delayed revenue to the government.
So it starts
And
accumulating
yes,
all
and
sorts of
as
charges.
taxpayers really must avoid such issues. They're very stressful.
So Miriam, let me ask you right there. So if a letter comes and then maybe the business has a situation, I know where you guys don't have any conversations on VAT, but let's assume it's your normal taxes and there's that delay and whatever. What's normally the first thing? So if you get that first reminder, is there anything a taxpayer can do? Maybe they are going through a situation.
Of course,
What?
including VAT.
Oh,
All the taxes, yes, including VAT. So you can come through to explain those circumstances to a department called debt recovery units. It's under the umbrella of the director called enforcement. So there's a directorate called enforcement. So you come through and come and present
Your
issue.
case.
Your case.
Because you know why I'm saying so, Mama? There are instances, I'm sure a number of businessmen will agree with me, where, for example, you bid. So you bid, you're given a contract, it's quite sizable. And then with that, then you are told you have succeeded, and then you're told, okay, so now begin the process of supply. So in the process, you supply, you invoice, but then the client doesn't pay, and they take forever. Meantime, you've invoiced, so ZR is looking for VAT, and it's a pretty sizable amount. And in some instances, I know, for example, some businesses use licenses, and they have to be paid for. They use software, they use hardware. It's all paid for in advance and supply. And yet, so they've had to take money out of their own resources to pay this, and then the big company does not pay. So how does it work in such instances? Because some of these are pretty sizable amounts. And then they could even reach billions of dollars in terms of the supply cost.
The law under that is a bit harsh. I'll call it a bit harsh because it doesn't ask you to wait for the payment. It's invoice based. So
Yes.
VAT is yes.
An invoice is produced.
Yeah, VAT is invoice based. So whatever invoices that you sold in the month, you've got to account for them in the period of the return.
That's
so if it happens to be the payment return and you really do not have the money,
Yeah, they didn't.
you are reminded. Remember, I said you are reminded, and you are reminded several times.
So can you go and explain? And
Go and explain.
so when you
your
explain,
issue.
what happens? Do they?
When you go there, it's not just a matter of explaining by word of mouth. You'll be requested to provide certain information that will support.
Yeah.
what you want
So
to see.
can you go to, like, for example, I go to the supplier and say, what's required? So if the supplier hasn't paid, is the supplier obliged to give to write an email to indicate? Can you ask the supplier, look, you haven't paid us, we are owing, we're under pressure, we've invoiced, we've supplied. Can you write a letter? Is that admissible to ZRI?
We may not ask for that because now you're involved in the third party. We will ask for certain information that pertains to you. For example, say bring the bank statements to show.
So
Okay?
suppose you bring them.
Yes, they will analyze them. And any other information that will be available for the office to make a decision whether you can enter the time to pay agreement before you take a time to pay agreement.
So we do have such a thing.
Yes, we do. It's available.
So now what happens in instances, because it's just that I can't mention names,
Yeah.
but there are corporations that are notorious. I mean, companies have literally closed because they've not paid for supplies and services. And these are substantially priced supplies and goods and services, like maybe $100,000, $200,000 worth of it. And imagine the VAT on $200,000 because it's quite substantial and it's invoiced, so they want that. So what happens in such instances? If this company doesn't pay in 1 year and it's really tight,
You can prove a bad debt. Remember, we have laws that also are there to provide for bad debt. I would call that a bad debt. So there is a court process where you may have to go through so that it's proven that that's indeed a bad debt. Because you're saying that somebody has not paid you and they have
Yes.
gone. That's a bad
Not
debt.
really gone. They are there. It's just that
They're
they're
there.
not paying. Yeah, they're there. They're just not paying. Like they are there. It's just that I can't mention names, but I know this because I do strategy sessions for quite a number of companies. So I know that some of the bad debts are even quasi-government, for example. So you have big quasi-government organizations, they have suppliers, they've supplied, and they're just not paying. So this is where I'm trying to get, because I'm hearing Zambo, I'm feeling Mr. Zambo here. So I just want to hear your guidance
Wow,
on such situations.
every situation can be explained like I'm saying, but
Mm.
that doesn't give leeway to taxpayers out there to just say, trust me, we do have issues concerning compliance, and that's why we're here. We're talking about compliance.
Yeah.
That's an exception, and I've said that as Zambia Revenue Authority, we do have a department that is dealing with the debts that may not be paid on time for reasons that may be reasonable. But you've got to provide the evidence to show that indeed such a
It's
reason
quite tough, huh?
is reasonable.
So I've got Magweto Farms here. They're saying, Rev, ZR, does it tax other minerals that are extracted in Zambia? For example, we have gold. I've never heard tax rates for gold, manganese, cobalt, or even sulfur. So these things, including, I suppose, even sugilite. What's the story with minerals?
If you would know the trends in Zambia Revenue Authority, you might be aware that as far back as somewhere around 2016, 17, we have a department, another directorate, coming here, taxpayer services and education. We do have a mining directorate.
Oh.
Yes, we do. Which is just looking at the mines. Whether
So like
we also have the artisanal.
Yes, that's what I understood.
Yes,
Because the big ones we know, but
Yes.
there's these artisans and all the guys mining.
Yes, we do have a department that is specifically just looking at the mines. We don't have a department that is looking at farming. We don't have a department that is specifically looking at rentals. We have a full directorate that is looking at the mines. That's really paying attention to this industry. Yes, to this sector. And supposed to say that around the time when it was being established, we did receive some very good support from the regions. We went through the training, but not the technical support that we could have. I think we were with us for over 2 years. Wow. Just to give us the skills that are needed to ensure that we manage
properly.
Yes.
So how does it work? The type of people that operate in that space, they also have to go through the whole thing, the registrations, the whole works. Do they do that as well?
Yes, they do. Yes.
So how is it looking so far? Are we winning? How's it going? Especially the artisans.
The artisanal mining. Yeah, they're being managed, and we do these physical visits and workshops to engage with them. There's a lot of things, activities happening in that space.
Yes, I'm aware.
Right now, I don't want to go in the details
No,
of the mines, but we know that it's a production that has gone. Know that we may talk about maybe mines.
Yeah, because Zambo here is saying that mines get tax holidays, and for a long time, a lot of these big South African conglomerates were getting tax holidays. That's still the story. Because remember, like the furniture companies would then close and then a new one open, and then they close and a new one open.
Well, unless it gives facts that we don't know about. So I agree that Zambia Development Agency is regulated by some law.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure whether in that law it discriminates us to this and that. I don't go into that.
Correct. Okay. Anyway, so it's a very, very interesting place. Let's take more calls. Maybe we can take another 5, no, 2, and then you just 3 now. Okay, let's take some calls. All right. So you don't even need to run numbers here. Hello. Good evening. Who are we speaking to? Mwangi. Please go ahead with your question or your contribution.
just in ways of race or where it is built in VAT on my electricity, VAT on water, VAT on utility, VAT on waste of well.
Okay, so let me get this right. Are you saying that your landlord is giving you an invoice with VAT on it for rentals? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Oh, okay, so we'll hear from the experts.
And that VAT, even on bills like electricity,
Mm.
water, yeah, and those foreign countries, which they're likely to claim this VAT at some point.
Okay, good question. We'll make sure she responds. Thank you very much, Monday, for your question. All righty, so let's take one more call, just so that we hear your question. So one more call. We have somebody. Okay. Just waiting. Just before. All right. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, good evenings. Good to have a lady on the call.
Good evening. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. What's your name, ma'am?
My name is
Sorry.
My name is Upe.
Oh, Bupe, please go ahead with your question or your contribution.
Thank you so much. I wanted to find out if you're a client, then you are also a reporting tax invoice. Then your suppliers deliver to you items and produce an invoice. They're required to make the 16%. They're supposed to remit it to the DRA. So they have to remit that even before payments have been given to them. So me as a client who is also a reporting tax agent to the DRA, when making payments to the supplier, we withhold that 16%. How then does it work with the supplier? They go back to the DRA to claim the 16% that has been withheld by the clients, or how is that?
Okay, good question. I'm sure Madam Miriam will be able to answer. Thank you so much, Bupe.
And then just one more question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so what happens when you're reporting tax agents and before making payments, you have to send a report to ZRA so that they can check whether the supplier has been remitting their dues. And that's the VAT, like 16%. But what happens to the turnover tax, 4%? Do you also need to request for information from ZRA? Because I think what we were told is that in case maybe they are owing ZRA, there's a formula comes indicating that we need to garnish a certain amount on their payment. So maybe I can get answers for those questions. Thank you so much.
Okay, awesome stuff. Thanks, Bupe.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, some pretty deep questions. So let's start with Monday's question on VAT, on property, invoices, and the like.
Yes, for this is something that we didn't mention. Of course, we have limited time. The tax is very broad.
Yeah.
When you are registered for VAT, one of the obligations that you have is to make sure that you charge VAT on every invoice. So the owner of the property, I will assume that their threshold is above 800,000, and they have an obligation to ensure that the people that are renting pay that tax as the final consumers. Okay, but for information for the ones that are viewing and listening in, there's no VAT on water. Oh, there's no VAT on water. Oh, that's a basic thing. So food stuffs.
Yeah, they're zero rated, huh?
Your house, there's no VAT there. Those are basic things. In medical issues, there's no VAT. So on water, there's no VAT. So please check that bill. Electricity, yes. Electricity has that.
But you're saying on rental, there's no VAT.
For the house that you're renting, if you are renting a house from there's no VAT unless it's commercial.
Okay, so like offices and office parks and marketplaces and things. Okay, but for a home where you live in, Okay, so I hope one day you've heard.
So what
So we can clarify it.
yeah, without there is
Yeah, because I've seen the bills from I've never seen bills. So I was a bit surprised, but anyway, maybe
you need to pay attention to the bill and see
yeah,
what
because
it's looking like.
I don't remember seeing that. But for electricity, yep.
Yeah.
It actually even gives a breakdown.
You see it.
Comes,
Yeah.
And the thing comes to tell you this much, that much, and this is the amount.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so now what about Wupe's questions? Very good questions. First one, the withholding tax invoice and the 16% remitter to ZRA supply. How does that claim back work? That's the first question. I'm sure you took notes.
Oh yes.
Before the second one.
Yes, they're similar.
Oh, they're similar. Eh?
Yes,
Oh,
they're similar in nature. What she's talking about is being an agent. So Zambia Revenue Authority, because of the poor compliance rates, very poor compliance rates where people fail to pay when they're supposed to pay. So ZRI, in the process of enhancing these collections, we have appointed various agency councils, some of the big businesses, the ministries, some other government departments, even ZRI itself is an agent to collect. Now, when you are appointed as a collection agent, in this case, she's talking about VAT. That 16% will be withheld by the person that has been appointed. It will not be given to as part of the payment. So it will be withheld. Okay. Now she's asking, so what happens? Because the other person who is charged, who should have collected this 16%, what should happen?
yeah.
Okay. So there's need to separate the two, this payment and the filing of the tax return. So on the part of the one who supplied, the one who should have received this money, all they do is to make sure that in the return that we have talked about,
Indicate
everything,
the tipping number and amount.
everything must go in the return.
Yeah.
Forget about the fact that it was withheld.
Yeah.
It has to be reported.
That's
All the sales must be reported. Now, where it was withheld, it has to be reported under the window or the section where you say this tax was
withheld. I've seen that.
Okay?
Yes, I've seen that. So normally, now just on that, I want to just jump in there. Now you have instances where the withholding is higher than the turnover tax. How does that work?
No, these are two different things. We're talking about VAT, so let's not confuse.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's VAT.
Okay, so it's VAT. Okay.
We'll come to the other one because we talked about the two.
Yes.
So then you have to put it in the box where it is for that tax that was withheld. The one who was withheld, in this case, Wupe is saying, let's imagine Wupe is an agent. Wupe, you are being egged. From today, if you haven't been doing this, please, as soon as you withhold that tax, raise a credit for the person that you have withheld. It's called the withholding tax certificate of VAT.
That's right.
It's like a check for the other person.
Yes.
Please do it immediately. You don't need to wait for the month end. You can do it immediately. The invoice is about a tax credit, because that certificate that is issued automatically now goes into the other account.
The other person's
As a
account
payment.
as a credit.
Yes.
So meaning if they are paying whatever taxes, it can actually be offset.
Yes, yes, the system they are talking, you raise that credit, it goes and offsets that liability
Which is created on the side. Yes, when
so
doing
the
the
key
return.
word is that the agent must immediately raise this certificate for the purposes of the other one so that they're not messed up. Please, that's very, very important.
I think that's fair.
Yes, the other one was on turnover tax again.
Yeah, so then the difference, because you've got the 4% this side, and then the other side, I think, I don't know what withholding is.
Yeah, what you were saying is that, again, you withhold the 4% and there's need for clearance. This is in the agency part, so this is not VAT, it's turnover.
Yes.
Yes, again, we are saying that before you pay, then the payment schedule goes to Zambia Revenue Authority to check as revenue paid. If you didn't declare, that has to be withheld. Yes, so you're getting clearance now from ZRA. This is really cumbersome. It's self-created because of the rate of non-compliance that we have. Can we help people get compliant? So your payment will be cleared by the agent if you paid it. So don't wait. Declare and pay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we're saying. In the circumstances that we are in, where people are not really paying very late, it's really a negative thing to the government offers. So now we have all these mechanisms and initiatives to ensure that even before you make a payment to somebody, but did they pay the tax? So if they didn't, so you go through that clearance process, and if they didn't pay, then the paying authority doesn't pay the full amount that withholds and pays it to Zambia. So this is what is working around these two taxes, whether VAT or turnover tax.
No, I remember one instance where, sorry, I remember one instance where I had some business with a leading organization, as a government, and then they did that. So I did send them a message and say, we really can't do that because we pay a specific tax already, so you can't withhold. So can you please pay us that difference? So they did. But they did automatically. They did automatically withhold it and then pay the difference less than amount. So we said, okay, can you pay that difference? It's a very high amount you're charging us there, and we are on turnover tax for this particular business, one of the consultancies, so we need that difference. So they did sort it out. But that's a very interesting point. So, Madam, your closing remarks, even though you need to come back because you know tax is very touchy. And you need to just kind of come and maybe, for me, I felt you needed to explain some of these taxes more, like the base tax, and then these indirect taxes. I think it would have been really nice to hear from you what they are, IPL, TL. What's IPL? What is it?
Insurance premium levy.
Exactly. And then what's TL?
Tourism levy.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So, and of course, excise is the one that we're paying on the phones and things like
electricity, water.
Yes. I've seen
yes.
Yes.
Cigarettes.
That's right. So we needed to get quite a bit of data on that, and then just maybe helping businesses to understand better how to be just literally walking them through, because this is education. So a literal step-by-step walkthrough for those listening on how they can be compliant. Somebody is a vendor and they decide, like, what's the advantage to the taxpayer to register and not to register, so that at least they understand. So it would be nice to have you back. But meantime, your closing remarks.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here, first of all, and we just started this journey of compliance with tax matters. And we've already said it that you need to comply with the registration requirement, your property out there. Please register. The process is very simple. After you register for any tax type, I've just given an example of tax, but there are many other taxes. Don't skip back. File the returns, make the payments, report.
Yes, every month. This is when the month is over, it becomes due. Make sure you go online and do the thing.
Yes.
Yeah, we're doing that. All my companies were doing.
Declare properly. Don't file a new return when you are busy in business there.
Yeah.
And just have some sleep with the revenue authority and be able to get that tax clearance automatically. If you comply, you get even the tax clearance automatically on application.
Yes.
It becomes a challenge.
Yeah, when you have issues. Correct.
That's it.
So we've been able to get them the last couple of years. We haven't had any problems.
Perfect.
Yeah. No, even now we have our tax clearance.
That's a confirmation.
No, we've learned the hard way. Because when you go out there, they say, oh, we need the current tax clearance. But because I'm not okay. Thank you, Madam Miriam. So my little rant at the end of all this is, yes, sorry, I'm revolted, so I'm just revolted. So forgive me for what I'm about to say. Yes, tax is a pain, but it's a necessary pain.
Yeah.
It's like the exercise, when you exercise, then that pain that comes after it. It's painful, but there's benefits to it. And I think the biggest benefit for me is ease of doing business, because they've really tightened the gauntlet. And since the gauntlet has gotten tighter and tighter, if you really want to operate properly without issues, I am telling you now, just go and register. Don't even try to duck and dodge, because now the NRCs are in the system somewhere. The PACRA thing is there. You'll just find a lot of problems. And if you really want to grow to a high level, you just want to be compliant. So you want to make sure your company is registered with PACRA. You want to make sure you're doing your returns, because there are other companies that when you want to do tenders, they'll even ask, can we see whether you have your returns? So this is now PACRA. It's not even ZI. So you find if you've got your non-compliant, that thing shows. It's a big, nice, when you just type the name of your company, big, nice red thing appears at non-compliant. It's not nice. So what you want is just to make sure that that's sorted out, and then ZPPA and the EGP is really powerful. It's one of the most powerful systems I've seen. EGP stands for Electronic Government Procurement or something. and they are also doing that. And these things are all interconnected. So whether you go to ZPPA, you are registering to get a tender of some sort, automatically, you just enter your tax clearance, you even go, wow, non-compliant. Please input current whatever. So Musipesa, everywhere you go, you're going to find problems. So I would recommend very, very direly to all those who are listening to me right now, it's not worth the duck and dodging. Just register properly. They've made the processes really simple. You'll be amazed now. Even PACRA, you can do it online. They have everything because they've got the ability to verify all the documents you upload. That same with ZI, you heard from the madam, you can register on your own. You also know that, what's the other one, the big one, I've forgotten. They also have everything online. So these days, it's just not what it was back in the day. So until next time, I'll be waiting to hear when these guys are coming back again. We've gone way past the time, but I just thought it was worth it. No, back to you.
Thank you, Rev. All right, there you have it. That's it for today's episode of Prosperity Insights. We should catch the good Rev next week.